There's traditional cruises, and then there's Virgin Voyages. And to be honest, a lot of people have misperceptions about this cruise line. So in today's video, I'm giving you 8 things to consider to help you decide if this cruise is or is not for you, because it's not for everybody. Coming up. And if you're new here, yo, I'm Christine Lozada, and this is Where in the World is CL, where I make travel videos every week to help you get up, get out, and go travel. So if you like to travel, consider subscribing. I've been on this cruise twice. I have several more coming up. I'm super excited about it. But this video is one of many in the playlist, so make sure you check the description. Let's start with number 8. This cruise is not for somebody who is a cheap cruiser. One of the things about cruises is a lot of people see them as a very inexpensive and cheap way to travel, which you still can find amazing deals on Virgin Voyages. I'll talk about some of the costs of what I've paid, but this is not your Carnival cruise. I used to go on those booze cruises when I was in my early 20s. That was not yesterday. And that was really, really cheap. This is not that kind of cheap. And so it's not an inexpensive experience, but it's also a very elevated experience. If you haven't seen the video of the cruise that Meatball and I went on for $25 a night, the Bahamas Paradise Cruise Line, such a steal. And at the same time, a totally different experience, not nearly as fun and amazing. Still, I don't know, we have a good time anywhere we go, but it's not the same thing. So let's give a couple examples of price, because honestly, price is something that's so important in making a decision about travel that people don't talk about enough on YouTube. The first trip I went on, 5 nights to Costa Maya, Mexico and Bimini, Bahamas, we paid this much or that amount per night. The full breakdown of everything that we paid for is in the video in the description below, but that's cruise plus taxes, nothing else. The third cruise that we're going on, total steal, Western Caribbean, 6 nights. We're paying this amount. We got a much better deal. And it's part of the reason because we booked it while we were on our second cruise, which I haven't figured out how much I paid for that yet, but I'll figure it out. So relative to other trips and vacations, it's still really inexpensive, but it's not your Carnival cruise. So consider the price range that you might be in if you decide on Virgin Voyages. These next few are some of the things that traditional cruisers expect, and it's just different on Virgin Voyages because it's a different experience. So number 7 is there's no buffets. And to be honest, Meatball loves eating at buffets. And one of the big misperceptions that, to be honest, both he and I had was we would be limited on portion sizes and that there might not be as much food as we wanted there to be. We both gained weight on this trip, a lot of it. Granted, we did work out a lot, but the point I'm trying to make here is the buffet experience is not there. You will be served both at the specialty restaurants, which are included, but even the food hall experience at the galley, you are seated, you have a menu, and there are waiters and waitresses coming around serving you. You do have the option, you can go up to some of the counters and they'll serve you directly from the counter. But if you love the buffet experience, that's just not available on this cruise. But if you're wondering what the food experience is like, video on that in the description below, and hint, it's really, really good. Here's another thing about traditional cruises that both Meatball and I love a lot, and it's not available on Virgin Voyages, which is open bar. In other words, having an open bar of alcohol that you can indulge in all day long. And yes, this is a cruise that has a lot of entertainment and a lot of options for parties, but it's also not that kind of a party. So going back to my example of my booze cruise days of Carnival cruises, that that got pretty wild. Watching people barf all over the place and projectile vomit was kind of as regular as seeing someone eating way too much at the buffet. But this is not that kind of party. It's still a really great party. And to be honest, something as simple as Scarlet Night, people were dancing in the pool. It got kind of wild later, and I'm glad it was not open bar because who knows what would happen. But one of the big misperceptions is that the alcohol must be really, really expensive, and it's not. I mean, yes, I did rack up quite a bill drinking the Moet, which does add up, but at the same time, the majority of drinks cost between this and this amount. Full video in the description below if you want to learn more about drinking on this cruise, but there's no open bar. So if that's your thing, salud. If you're getting some value out of this video, cheers that like button, consider subscribing, and tell me in the comments below who you normally cruise with. And even though Virgin Voyages is for me or is for us, there are some things that annoy me about this cruise line, and I will talk very honestly about that. So check the video in the description below, as well as the whole playlist, and let's move on to the next one, which is something a lot of diehard cruisers don't like. There's somebody we play dodgeball with every day, and Jack, he's a diehard Royal Caribbean cruiser, and he was frustrated that there wasn't a central place, such as a very humongous pool, that the whole ship would gather around every day. There isn't a central place on Virgin Voyages. It's really everyone going about doing their own thing, and I'll give you two different examples of how this plays out. So they have something that's different, where they have, instead of like one key entertainment person, they have something called the Happenings Cast, which is a group of people that help everybody to have a good time in different ways. Whether it's somebody who's doing all the game shows, or somebody who is a magician doing up close magic, to people who are just helping to lift the energy of every space and every party. And they're all hoping and helping you to have a really good time. And so that looks different because that's happening everywhere around the ship. And so another example is Scarlet Night, their themed party night where everyone dresses up in red. And it's similar if you're familiar with the performance Sleep No More. If you're not familiar, basically in Sleep No More, you go to a performance in which, depending on where you go, location-wise within the venue of the performance, you will have a completely different experience than somebody else. And so what happens at Scarlet Night is there's not a central gathering place. And so the way you experience Scarlet Night will be totally different from the next passenger next to you. Even the 2 times I've cruised so far, wildly different experience. One time I was playing in a game show, and the next time I was on a secret part of the ship watching a magic show and making cocktails. Like, these are 2 totally different Scarlet Nights for me. And so there's no central gathering place where the whole ship is coming together. It's a more unique experience depending on what it is that you want. Number 4 is one that I think a lot of people are familiar with, but might not know the actual details around. So Virgin Voyages, not for kids. It's an adult cruise and a very adult experience. But I actually looked this up because I really want my nephew, who's still a youngin', he's got a few more years, to go on this cruise. I thought adult meant 21 for drinking. It's actually 18. So this cruise is for 18 and up. And actually, really quick, let's talk about a huge misperception about Virgin Voyages. People think it's the cruise for the youngins. And I would actually say the majority of people on this cruise are in their mid-30s to mid-60s. And so that really does run the gamut. But one thing that I would say is common amongst everyone is that it's just a really good time and everyone's hanging out all together. There's so many nights that Meatball and I had an awesome dinner with Sue. She's fantastic. She actually was celebrating her 65th birthday. She was having a better time than we were. But the age range is a fairly large range, and it's not necessarily a super young cruise. And I would say the number of people celebrating their 40s was in the 40s. There was a lot of people celebrating their 40s. 40th. Anyway, number 4 is this cruise is not for families and it's not for kids. which leads to number 3, which is this is an adult experience. And when it's an adult experience, it means there's adult entertainment and adult humor, and just it's really fun and funny. Even the beach games, I mean, we were making sandcastles into very inappropriate shapes while drinking extremely heavily at the same time, and it was a blast. But I would recommend that this cruise be for people who are more open-minded. Yes, the adult humor is funny, and if you don't really understand what I'm talking about, an example a lot of people are familiar with, Cirque du Soleil. Really great family entertainment, but they also have their adult version of Cirque du Soleil, which is really entertaining, but is not for kids. That's how a lot of the entertainment is on this ship. I mean, there's drag queens on this ship doing amazing shows. There's different things like tattoo parlors. A lot of people actually do get a tattoo on the ship. You don't have to, obviously. But these are things where you just need to be a little bit more open-minded about. Another example is hanging out and playing drinking games with strangers. At one of the best restaurants on the ship, in my opinion, Gun Bay, you have your waiter or waitress bringing your entire table, and you might be sitting with really fun friends like Denard and Tony.
Are you ready? Yes. Focus. Starting to start from you. 32. I was gonna say. No, 32. Because see the one.
Make sure you check out their channel, Destination Unknown, in the description below. Or you might, like on my second cruise, be sitting with a bunch of strangers who are now your best friends, and you're having an awesome time playing drinking games together. So having an open mind about the type of entertainment on the ship and an open mind around how they do things is necessary, because this is not your traditional cruise experience. Let's talk about something where people were expecting a traditional cruise experience and they were frustrated, and that's with bingo. I love playing bingo, but you know what I love more? Drag queens and drag queen entertainment. And so drag queen bingo with the song and the dance and the funny jokes, etc., was hilarious to me. And so yes, you could actually win a lot of money playing bingo. Some of the pots were $700. I don't know, maybe I'm an inexperienced bingo player, but to me, I was like, oh wow, that's like a lot of money. I didn't expect to win at all. I expected to drink. And so the Virgin Voyages bingo experience is drag queen bingo, and there are a lot of people there who were there to play, were not interested in any of the jokes, and it was just not the experience they were looking for. And so yes, it's correctly titled Not Your Grandmother's Bingo, and would probably give my grandmother heart palpitations based off of some of the amazing jokes that were happening. This next one requires you be just a little bit tech savvy. And even Meatball, he totally sucked at using the app the first time. Well, mainly because he just was lazy. But my mom, for example, loves the paper itinerary, the daily itinerary where you're looking at what's going on the cruise. And for Virgin Voyages, you have to use the app. Helpful to know, Wi-Fi is free on the ship, although premium Wi-Fi is really freaking good. Like, I'm talking video Zoom chats, because no one should be working on this cruise and taking video Zoom calls all day long. I was totally doing that. But it requires being tech savvy and using the app, because everything happens there. You book your classes for workouts, you book your restaurants, you're booking your entertainment. And if you aren't using the app and you are not quick to do these things, there were times that Meatball and I did not get into the shows, and we were turned away because it was completely full, and we went standby thinking we could just get in, and we couldn't. So you gotta be a little tech savvy. Ooh, let's talk about something important that a lot of people have a misperception around, is that if you go on this cruise, you must love to party. And I'll be honest, yes, I love to party, but it's not required. There's plenty of people on this cruise who not only do not work out and do not participate in the workout classes, but also are not going to the Manor for the nightclub, to the pool for the pool parties, to the pajama party, blah, blah, blah. But one thing to know is that these are not exclusive parties. Although the atmosphere and the way it looks, because Virgin Voyages does an amazing job on the lighting, the sound, etc., it feels very Miami. It feels very where I used to live, New York and San Francisco, but without the pretentiousness, without the you know, who are you and who do you know to be able to get in? Obviously, it's a cruise. But the thing about it is that the people who attend are very, very welcoming, and it feels so inclusive of everybody. And so there are so many times I'd be out on the dance floor dancing with everybody of all ages, and it was such a good time, but it's not required. There's plenty of people on this cruise who do not party that have a fantastic time. Even the beach club, for example. There's the part of the pool that is a total vibe, and there's a part of the pool that's really quiet, and even parts of the beach, the cabanas on the beach and other parts of the beach that are just really nice and enjoying nature. And so make sure you check out that video on the beach club. But one thing to know, you don't have to be a partier to be on this cruise.
Virgin Voyages is awesome, but this cruise is not for everyone. I'd love to hear in the comments if you think you might be sailing with them. I have several more of these cruises booked. And speaking of for everyone, I asked my parents to come with me on the next one, so maybe you'll see me there with them. But there are also some things I've done differently in how I cruised the second time versus the first time with them, and things I'll be doing differently on the third time. So check that video in the description below, as well as the things that annoy me about this cruise line. And I'll see you in that next adventure. Ciao.